I'd like to pull on the thread a little bit more of what I've heard others talk about today.
Yeah.
I've in the last few days found myself in the space of being guided to hold, to contemplate on my attitude toward allowing space for things to remain unresolved,
Mhm.
instead of rushing in and
Mhm.
trying to bring about a resolution.
Yeah.
And I can clearly see that. Um, just the nature of my career has been to find solutions, and I've carried that forward into my relationships. Anytime there was a bump, fix it instead of just allowing space
Yeah.
for the other person to be wherever they are and to not have to make them okay so that I can be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I think the deeper layer that I'm starting to be guided to look at is the disturbances internally within myself.
Exactly.
And can I be okay with those?
Yes.
Do I have to, I can clearly see the pattern in the past where I have distracted myself
Yeah.
from that uncomfortableness by making myself busy in other ways, productive in other ways. And I guess I'd just like to hear you talk just a little bit more about,
Mhm.
um, because it's such a subtle nuance
Yeah.
of being present to that,
Yeah.
allowing those feelings, observing them
Yeah.
without creating a story around them, without shaming myself for it,
Yeah.
without distracting myself, um, you know, putting my attention on it without um, distorting that. So I'd just like to hear you talk a little bit more about that.
All right. So, yes, uh, Ramana Maharishi said that he gave an example of this tendency we have when we try to fix the world. He says that you're walking on earth and your feet are hurting because there are pebbles, there are stones on the ground. So, what the mind comes up with is let me cover the whole earth with leather. And he says it's actually much simpler to wear shoes. So, the pointer is that what we are trying to do is we're trying to change others or hoping that maybe we can behave in a certain way that their response towards us changes or their attitude or the way they see us changes. That is like covering the earth with leather. It's not going to happen. So ultimately, what do we have? We have only this opportunity to work here, to be present. I won't even say work. I would say just be present here and observe what is happening. Because when we are totally present to ourselves, we can see how this split mind, is operating. And the more we see it, the more we start resting in this vastness, in this presence. It does require courage because we have been told that whenever there is a problem, an internal disturbance, seek a solution outside. So we have been doing that by default. When we were young, we didn't know. We would take substances, we would try to engage in different other activities and try to numb that feeling. When we grew up, we started getting more theories on this that the other person is toxic, there is problem there, you should do this, you should do that, stay away. There are many things over there. Now, all that aside, when we come back to ourselves and start investigating, start facing what is here, that is where the discomfort actually truly peaks. It is the most unbearable thing. But that is where the true, if I'm to use a word, healing, true healing happens, because what is seen is released. This is by Nisargadatta Maharaj in his book, I Am That. What is seen, what comes up in light is released. What remains trapped creates discomfort. So when I see how, let's say, if it's a relationship, if I'm aware enough to see how am I presenting myself in the relationship, then I can see this whole dynamic that is taking place. So if I am, let's say, operating in fear, in anxiety, in in this thought that the other person may leave, my energy then is not very pleasant, and they can sense it because we are all consciousness. So we are at certain depth, we all know what is going on. They can sense it, and then they try to distance. In that moment, that is the moment of suffering, because then all those wounds get triggered. All the mind conditioning gets activated from childhood. It all gets activated in that moment. But that is where the presence is required. So when we attend to it with total surrender, with total attention, eventually we find ourselves in this spaciousness where the masters always take us. They says they say that that is your home. What happens is you eventually come to the spaciousness, and then there is this vision, not your personal seeing, but this vision of what exactly is happening. So in that light, if the other person wants space, wants distance, you can actually give them that. You can give them that, and you can actually attend to yourself. And then you realize that how much space actually you needed too. How much of it was, how much presence was required by you for yourself too. What parts of ourselves are we not attending to? That is an opportunity to investigate that, to see that. So Kabir says, now his words are a little extreme, so I don't want you to take it literally, but he says, when I go out to look for evil, I don't find any evil. But when I look inside me, I see the greatest evil. What he's saying is, let's bring it back here. When we bring it back here, usually the problems begin to disappear in awareness. And then the right action comes up. So if somebody wants distance, space, that can be given. There is a possibility for that. If someone wants to leave, there is a possibility for that too. Now, I'm not saying that it won't be painful or anything. No, everything will happen because this is the nature of things. So the pain will happen, the suffering will happen, but there will be no resistance to it because there will be a shift. In that shift, the presence will be in the foreground, holding, embracing. Whatever discomfort, whatever pain, the presence or the spaciousness is way stronger than any anxiety, any fear, because the presence, the spaciousness remains. Rest of the content changes. So I guess that's what I have to say about this.